Oh no, give me a countdown or something.
Um, three, two, one. Go ahead.
Hello and welcome back to another The Loading Screen with your new co-host, Brother Virtue, aka Virtue Prime or the Conquering Variant. Joined today by Phemeto, also soon to be double blacklisted from
Ooh,
Capcom.
I didn't know that was possible.
It's happening. It's happening. Um, Today we're going to talk about Monster Hunter, which is, I think, what we ended our discussion on a little bit. That long-winded rant, the
Yeah,
old man
last time
shakes fist at cloud energy that we possessed.
there was Monster Hunter
Um,
somewhere in there.
there was a little bit, yeah. So we had some ideas originally for the podcast today, and then I think we've sidelined those ideas for next podcast.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of them, just because they'd be more interesting
We need expert
with
opinions on some
with
things.
with with more opinions for sure. So today is just our opinions, and boy, do we fucking have them. So we might strangle ourselves. This is the pre-canceled podcast,
Yeah, well,
right?
last episode was the pre-canceled podcast. This is going to be now we're canceled podcast,
Now
and
we're
then
canceled, and
next
then
episode is
next
going to
week
be post-canceled
post
podcast.
canceled. So it's like the redemption arc.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
our hero's story, our hero's journey is completing itself.
No one's going to like it when
Um,
we rebrand to the PCP podcast, but
Oh, gross. So on the loading screen, we like to drink things, and I say we. I'm still relatively new, little green.
yeah, I'm the
But we like
drunk.
to. Yeah, you're the drunk. We like to drink things on stream on stream. Both.
Both, yeah, kind of both.
Both. Okay. What are you drinking today?
I have beer this time, so I have a Irish, not Irish beer. It's a
It's like
super.
it's like blinding white.
Yeah, hang on. This stupid light. I can't turn this thing off. Anyway, you can't read it. It's called Innocent Gun. It's a British beer. It's a set of beers.
Innocent or like innocent.
Innis and Gun.
Innis.
INNIS
Ah,
and symbol GUNN. So Innis and Gun.
Guinness without the g.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's some of my favorite beers. So this is British beer, and their like take on this is that it's always a different type of like lager or pale ale or something, but then they
Okay.
age them in like harder alcohol barrels, like whiskey barrels or bourbon barrels or rum barrels, stuff like that. And so the original flavor is I believe this is rum, no whiskey cask. So it's beer
So
aged in a whiskey barrel.
in character with the previous conversation of hand me downs and then also smoking of barrels, which we talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's like that, and this stuff it tastes so good. I love this beer. They come in
and
like 4 or
then
5 different flavors, and every single one's a banger.
what flavor was that?
This one's whiskey aged.
Whiskey. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a single malt beer, but then whiskey aged, so it's got like a lot of natural vanillas and oak flavors that you would get from like a whiskey barrel.
Hmm. That sounds nice. I like vanillas. I guess I should talk about what I'm drinking today,
Yeah,
which
what do
is
you got over there, man?
it's a repeat from last last
Okay.
pod, which we only recorded last week, and then I don't know. This is a 6 pack. I think I did 2 of them. It's the Beechwood Blonde from Huntington Beach with American Pilsner and Midwestern Corn and German Magnum.
I'll have to get some of those.
Yeah.
'Cause
It's
they're
all right.
around
I mean,
here.
I'll drink it until it's gone, and then I'll get something new.
Fair enough.
Um,
All right,
not
so we just
drinking.
want to get into it then. Our first talking point, which isn't this is not the blacklisting point. This is
Right.
great
So
listing.
before we get into that, I'm a stickler for details.
Okay.
Assassin's Creed Mirage, the Corey may hate. I was thinking Y2K. You were thinking the Rapture. It was actually the Aztec calendar. That that story note was written upon, where
But
everything was ending. Everything was ending in 2012.
But
So like it was
wasn't
like this big build up to Aliens 2012.
okay, but wasn't the Rapture the same thing? Still, it was a 2012 thing, end of the calendar. Like that's
I
what.
don't. No, are they?
Um.
Clickety clackety.
Yeah, I don't know. Fuck. I don't know. I didn't do this last time, but I don't
Uh-oh.
know.
Religion.
It's not Barrett really. It's just
Well, the Rapture is the religious angle.
yeah. Oh, so it was 2011 was the Rapture Day. It was like right
Okay,
before
so you
that.
so you were right on your claims. I was wrong on my date and also
And
the
we,
doomsday moment. So I mean, my prediction skills have weakened with time.
just like every other prediction. Like
Hmm, true.
yeah,
So
so we
first
were both
topic.
kind of wrong. Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So first topic. So this is gonna be something that we're gonna revisit when we have some more expert opinion on, of course. So this is just gonna be like our mild take and opinions. But what I wanted to talk about was that recent video that Capcom had put out, basically about their RE engine and about how they feel about the RE engine's distribution and as well as longevity due to modding, cheating, piracy, all sorts of things, and just kind of their stance on all those topics. And it was mainly focused around the RE engine, which is what they're using for all their games going forward, kind of thing.
And you hate me for picking on grammar. So are you saying longevity or are you saying something else? Because if you're saying something else, what is the meaning of what you were saying?
Well, Capcom's worried about the long term stay of the RE engine. At least this is what I saw
Okay.
from it, because it's so riddled right now with all the things that I just said. And so they want to
Right.
crack down on that so they can keep this engine mod free, cheat free, piracy free for as long as they can. So
Yeah,
kind
I know what it's like to wave the white flag and to wear the white armor and to be despised by others, which is a recurring theme to talk about. Um, but no, like if we're talking about Monster Hunter, which obviously is a Capcom royalty, an IP, their product. Um, I feel like is this the first real instance that they've come out and voiced dissent into a
of.
community? Like it's
No.
not so much dissent, but I mean like have that they've essentially voiced control of their
So so the one that I wanted to talk about, which was a big deal, was back in Street Fighter V, not RE engine related, but a part
Okay.
of the thing where Capcom flat out stated that they hate the modding communities because it creates like tech support problems that they have to respond to. Which one they don't. Capcom has like absolutely no tech support.
Hmm.
But also, the modding community ruins their games and their public perception of their titles and their engines and stuff. Because when you start having people throwing out all these like big titty mods and stuff, people see Capcom games of that and they don't like that. But what I wanted to talk about was specifically Street Fighter V and their netcode. So Street Fighter V launched with the worst online play of like any fighting game. Everybody
Okay.
hated it. Everybody hated Street Fighter V for the longest time. And it wouldn't work very well in crossplay. It wouldn't work PC to PC, peer to peer. It didn't matter. It was bad.
Hmm.
And I forget the guy who did it, but basically there was a guy making the rollback netcode, which is used for every game, every fighting game these days. And it's basically started out as a mod for Street Fighter V. This is as far as I know. I didn't like deep dive into this, but this is what I recall. It's been a while. And basically,
Oh,
this was a
misinformation. We'll touch back up on that later.
yeah, I am trying my best, but I know that this was a PC mod to fix the Street Fighter V netcode so that it was actually playable with, people on PC.
There's
Now,
moments in gaming where modding communities have essentially saved a game from a bad launch or essentially a failed product or
every
an
Bethesda
issue
game
like
ever.
a game breaking moment. But the thing is, Bethesda is more accepting of mods and has become more accepting over time. It's not like they
Relying on them even.
yeah. Yes, so I mean, like even
But
stuff with like Starfield and whatnot, like they're dependent on that carrying forward the game as opposed to their own input, I guess.
right, and that's just more of a thing with Japanese developers in general are very proud of their products and want everything to be theirs.
And
They
we
don't want
outsource our
outside.
shit.
Yes,
And
but they don't want outside influence. They don't want people, making changes to their thing. Like it's a whole mentality over there.
Mhm.
But the reason why I brought up the Street Fighter V thing was that Street Fighter V netcode fix worked on PC and everyone was loving it. But it didn't work cross-platform, which Street Fighter V was. So if you were playing on console and you paired up with someone on PC running this mod, it would just, close out, like cancel the match, whatever. It didn't work. And so a lot of console players got mad at Capcom because their game didn't work, but it turns out the PC community was all playing with this mod that actually allowed them to play.
Right.
Now, of course, Capcom like DMCA strike this mod and didn't want them, like they cease and desist it, whatever they had to do to get rid of this thing. But then they ended up buying it to integrate into their actual system to say that now, okay, this is ours and this is what we do now. So, and then obviously all the fighting games now use the same rollback netcode. Street Fighter 6 obviously uses it, all this stuff. And so that mod saved their fucking online fighting games. And
right.
they disavowed it when it wasn't theirs, and then when they, bought it and used it, now they say, okay, this is fine.
Now, I understand that there's different seats at Capcom as far as these games royalties, like the publisher, the developer, the main face of, and like essentially teams. I mean, they might all answer back to the mother umbrella moment, but at the same time, they are sometimes their own entities within. To, I guess, segue off of that, what you were just talking about as far as a modding moment that essentially saved their game, or at least a level of their infrastructure for the game to be playable, is that Capcom, Monster Hunter specifically, hasn't there been mods that were in base world that later seemed eerily similar to functionality in Iceborne as far as the fragment, I guess not. How would you call that?
The glowing pillars for item drops.
Right. The glowing pillars,
like
the awareness, spatial factors, visual edits, maybe even alterations to. I don't want to say like weapon or attack canceling motions, but I mean, like, I feel like they borrowed sure conceptual borrowing, which it would be nice to see people within our community attributed for their influence. But I mean, I still think like that's an emerging market to some degree where the things that players have done haven't really ever been recognized in mainstream gaming. And that, I guess, straddles the line between like influencer and then just like a communal interaction that then is what goes forward into the next game. So I mean, obviously, if players are gravitating towards this or doing this, they'll include that in the next game, which isn't necessarily stealing the idea, but it's like implementing what people want as opposed to quite literally idea theft. And then more or less I mean, we don't have to keep saying blacklisting, but essentially they wall off a degree of content and are abstaining or pushing away from it. Like, I don't know. It's the outcasting of that type of content.
Well, I think that's an interesting word that you brought up, outcasting. Because I don't know, are you aware of Hex, who did a lot of mods for Base World?
I've heard the name. I am not I'm not opposed to modding, but for a long time I was. So for me, modding is less fluid. So like, I'll mod if it's really something that's going to change the game. But when I look at something specifically Monster Hunter and or competitively and or intelligently and or just something where I want to equate a level of skill and thus I use that to measure merit of respect, I feel like the source, like the vanilla source, to me is what I want to focus on. And if modding adds something of value on the other side of it, then sure. But more often than not, I'm not like, I really need to have this weapon from blank anime. I don't need to have these big titties, on my character. I don't need to have an airplane and an automobile fighting each other in the game. That's like a level of like memery that to me adds no value to the game and has a long history of diminishing the value of a game just due to the amount of corruption, not so much from a mental state, but corruption and literal files of the game. So it's like they implemented something. It might work for them or be stable enough for them for a period of time, depending on where you are in patching. And then the thing is that people that haven't done that, like I harken back to the original Monster Hunter on PS2. There were people that could essentially alter the color of monsters. People that went on those quests eventually got corrupted data and lost all their progress. And a lot of those people stopped playing altogether, so they never came back. So that literally hurt the player basis in a game that was already small as it was and was dependent, I guess, on those numbers statistically to prove the value of bringing about another game in that series. Like there's a lot that happens on the backside, I think, for like the developer that consumers aren't like aware of or concerned with. So in that level, I guess like that's where I've always been more attentive or thoughtful of that. So for me, it's like I want to stay the course. I want to be good at what the game is, not good at what I change the game into what I want it to be. I think those are two very different things. But that's a long tangent. But yes, if you haven't forgotten where we started, please go ahead.
Well, so before I get back to where I started, I got one other small tangent. I'm not into those mods either, as far as like changing models, adding custom weapon sprites, or like big titty anime girls and like all that stuff. I like gameplay affecting mods that do change the game at its core. But that's another topic for another day because I have reasons for that and stuff. But anyway, yeah, I mean, everyone's got a reason to want to do whatever, modding they want to do. And a lot of it just isn't very good reasons, in my opinion. But I originally talked about the blacklisting thing because I wanted to bring up Hex. Now, Hex was modding Base World, and he originally came out with the Hex World mod, which made monsters harder, faster, everything more punishing.
Right.
And he was working on a lot of other weird random mods for Base World. And because I was also promoting that like on Twitter and streams and stuff and showing off Hex World and stuff, that's one of the reasons why I got blacklisted from Monster Hunter, or at least Capcom. But the funny thing about that is that everyone saw like I wouldn't say the idea was there, and what Hex was doing was really cool and innovative, and Hex actually got hired on from Capcom to work on Iceborne.
Oh, wow.
You can blame Nightshade Palumu on him, by the way.
Okay.
So like Capcom sees this stuff, like they see it, but I think it's just a weird thing. I guess I'm just kind of bitching, but it's like I got punished, and then he got a job.
You say bitching, but what I heard and what I saw was bitter. That's the word I felt like that encompasses, and then you follow up with like he's rewarded and you're denied. So like I myself can understand, and maybe some of it is self-imposed, going back to previous remarks, of my relationship with Capcom has always been what I consider to be shaky, and not because they ever made it known that I was doing something wrong, but I feel like there was a time where I was much more belligerent or much more of the mindset to pick from the low hanging fruit. And to me, I always expected a certain pedigree of quality for if you're going to be a pillar of the community, if you're going to be representative of something. And I guess this goes back to like the whole age and work ethic and all that kind of shit, just a different mindset of people. But like if you're going to be synonymous with Monster Hunter, like people, they go hand in hand. Like there's definitely people in our communal space that when you think of them, you think of Monster Hunter, not because because of essentially their input or efforts or their videos or whatever. Like that's, you relate them with Monster Hunter. You can't really untangle the two.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few specific people that would come to mind for that, for sure. Yeah. And like, and I'm not even bitter about it, because like I know I'm an asshole. I do shit. I say stuff, and obviously.
Well, you're not really the worst of the worst, to be fair. So
no,
I mean,
but I get it from like a company perspective. They're like, we don't want to deal with that, especially because, like I said, I talk a lot about modding and messing with game files and doing all sorts of weird shit, which is not something that they can like actively acknowledge, approve of, or anything. It sets a bad precedent.
But
So I understand that.
So yes, true. You're not exactly the most favored option, and I think if anything, I have in fact past tense petitioned against individuals that I very much felt were doing the same thing that you're talking about. So it's like if these people are just modding, or if these people are essentially porting over the game or emulating, to me, I'm like, well, why? Why put yourself in that position and publicly if you want support publicly? Now, if you don't care about seeking the accolades of fame and clout and all the other bullshit, then by all means do whatever you want. There's tons of people out there that I could give two fucks less about, and that's, once again, opinion, or take it or leave it. Is that if you're streaming and you're streaming mods, I'm probably not going to watch. I'm probably not going to engage. I'm probably not going to care. I've already written you off. And I think that that's very much where Capcom stands too. But at the same time, there are people that, I guess, whether it be charisma, personality, influence, connection, whatever, they end up rising a bit higher and are more visible. For those people to kind of straddle the fence, I think that's where there's an issue. But you could also be candid about it. And the problem, like going back to last pod about just like the neutrality of people, is like you could take a stand against something while still doing it. And maybe that's not necessarily the best of both worlds. But at the same time, you're at least letting it know where you stand. So like you could emulate and say, hey, I'm emulating. Obviously support the game in the livelihood and the shelf life that it was available, for sure. Don't just take something for nothing. But at the same time, this is the only way I have access to it. So I'm going to do that because I have passion and or love for something that I care about. So I'm going to play the game that I recall upon and had the most fun in. And, I'm going to share that love with other people and invite them in. So yeah, I might be drawing attention to something that you as a company don't necessarily favor. But the thing is I'm doing it with the best intention, and you know where I stand. So it's not like the false face or many masks kind of situation where people are like, oh yeah, I'm a family channel. I'm we're here for kids and togetherness, and it's like Monster Hunter's a teamwork game. You'll never be alone when you hunt together, or whatever the fucking the slogan is on the back of the what case is this? One of the freedom ones. It's like you're never alone, but then you turn into like a royal fucking douchebag, and you're all about the individualistic chase of clout, and then unfortunately people find out about that. Like there's so many. I think there's more stories of people falling from grace in Monster Hunter than there is of heroes in Monster Hunter. Like, yeah, I think that this is my what is it, Graham Hancock, Ancient Aliens or ancient civilization remarks that I was making to you, where it's like Monster Hunter is a series with amnesia. Like so many people don't actually know what happened in the first and second gen history wise, player wise. Like we have little tidbits of lore that a couple people on Twitter spout constantly, and other people are like, oh, they fucking lay eggs, and it's just like, and then like there's 50 fucking videos about it, and then it's beaten into my head to the point to where I'm just like, I fucking hate Monster Hunter, and I fucking hate the community in Monster Hunter, because nobody is original anymore. Nobody is caring. Nobody has, like, I'm not saying that negativity should win. There's a place for it, you know what I mean? There's a time and a place for everything. Not in the Monster Hunter
community,
but not in the Monster Hunter. So like if you're truly negative or you pick at other people, that's where you fall. But the thing is that the world isn't full of perfect people that are only ever doing the right thing. Like I guess that goes into content creation more, where it's just like my preference isn't necessarily people that are fallen from grace and then re-risen, but at the same time my preference also isn't the recycling of bullshit and people pandering with no genuineness behind it. It's like I want to know that people are relatable. I want to know that people are genuine. I want to know that people are humble. And I guess going back to the previous remarks from last pod as well, it's just like, there's currency and it's respect. And it's like that used to be my currency. That currency is gone in Monster Hunter, so that's why I'm also gone in Monster Hunter, because I just don't see the value there anymore.
Well, I think that's why most people are gone right now. Like most of the big names.
Until
Well, also there's
another Monster Hunter.
I'd say for now, because once Monster Hunter 6 drops, we're all coming back in like fucking flies to shit. So so we started talking about the community. Before we get like deeper into that, I wanted to go back to what you're talking about earlier with as
Blacklist.
Yeah, no, actually, no. Just I want to skip past that. That's fine. That's just the only thing I wanted to bring up about that. But I wanted to move on to, because you brought up another point. I wanted to. Oh, go ahead.
It is fucked up that you're not rewarded.
No, it's not. I didn't do anything. I was just trying to.
But I mean,
showcase it.
Yeah.
But no, it's annoying that, you know, ever since like then, it's like, oh, I can't communicate with Capcom at all or anything.
You'll ask and you'll be just completely ignored.
Yeah, I get ghosted by every front.
Yeah,
so
I don't get ignored anymore, but I did lose support, and I think that's when Yuri left, and then basically their whole internal marketing Monster Hunter team like has reached the end of their shelf life and moved on to new things. And I don't know who came in behind them, but they're quiet and they're non-existent, and that's kind of still preceding the Yuri mark from last pod, where it's just like I don't know, they kind of shelved them a little bit. Like there was community managers. Community manager didn't even exist in NA all the way up until Yuri, and that was what, like 6 or 8 years into Monster Hunter. And then even when he did exist, it was like in a small capacity on forums. And then after that, so it's like one of those things where they've just never really backed the right horses. And I think that if Yuri was given more ability to or impact or something, that Monster Hunter, the experience would be very different. I think the community would be different for it too.
You know, having a guiding community presence would definitely help.
Right, but I mean,
like kids in a classroom with no teacher around.
They started off like in a local scene where it's like they were doing stuff in California, or they were doing stuff in London, and those were like the early iterations of community managers. And then they brought in other ones that obviously, you know, social media blew up within that time frame, so there was better access for them. But I don't know. I've always been the mindset that Capcom has backed the wrong horses at many turns, where it's just like, why are we putting all our stock into these people when they're I guess not the worst of us, but like I feel like we could do better. That's just my take. I feel like we could do better. I don't know. Pro Jared, anyone? I'm just saying. I don't know. There's a couple names that I could throw out there. Just people falling from grace. It's like, why did you care so much about what these people had to say? Like, I don't know. I feel like they just brought arrogance and bullshit to Monster Hunter, and that's what we've maintained since then.
I guess I could agree with that to a degree. I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens when Monster Hunter 6 comes by, and see who, you know, returns and what happens then. Because right now, obviously, nobody really cares about the community because the games are, I wouldn't say dead, but stagnant right now. It's all
we're in a recovery.
We're in a recession.
Like Monster Hunter recession. Zenny just isn't worth what it used to be.
These guild points are useless.
The honey to money conversion is just not there.
So what I wanted to talk about though is because you brought up emulation as far as going back to Capcom's not liking modding, but I wanted specifically for Monster Hunter, and you talked about, you know, emulating like your favorite games, because there are no other ways to sometimes play these games, and that's something I don't like. Obviously, Capcom knows, everyone knows, and
that doubles on the game preservation remarks too. But right, yeah,
but you think like, how many games have been brought back due to, you know, their servers being brought back online due to modders and stuff, like Tri servers and 3U and Frontier and Freedom Unite, like all that stuff that's getting shut down or is shut down is still playable now through the use of, you know, modding tools and stuff. And obviously it's not like a negative thing. Capcom can't say, oh yeah, we condone that because it's IP.
Right,
mumbo jumbo,
but that goes back to the whole, like, if you're candid, you know what I mean. If streamers take the responsibility or the reins in those moments, and they say, hey, I know I'm doing something that's probably not as favorable by a company standpoint, but this is the only way I can do it, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to love it, and I'll preach it. And
that's what I wanted to harken on, is just that no one's modding or emulating these games out of like resentment. Like we're like, oh, we're gonna steal money from the company by not buying their games, because everyone genuinely loves these games. And I'm actually really happy for the modding community in general of Monster Hunter that have basically lifted up all these games. You can play goddamn near every Monster Hunter game that released in the last 20 years
So
to some pretty good degree.
it's a double-edged situation. So I think back to Monster Hunter 4U, and people were modding in that. Basically, people were hacking 3DSs, so they didn't want to spend the money on a Katsu Kitty modded device, and there wasn't necessarily the tools to appropriately do it. So people would basically jailbreak the 3DS, and then from jailbreaking it, you had both options of you could implement hacks or you could implement basically video recording.
I had the 3DS capture thing. It fucking sucked. It's so bad.
I never had it. I was one of the few people that never had issues with it.
Really?
Yeah.
The frame rate for me was awful.
I never minded it. It wasn't bad. I was pretty good at designing my little layouts on stream, and I had fun with it. Everybody, like, that was still when I was streaming with a team, and some of them had good capture cards that lasted years and years. Some did not. I still have my OG 3DS capture card right here behind me. I had gotten several ones, ended up giving some away, some other shit. But yeah. What was I talking about? For you and the modding. So modding led to the ability to give other people access to become streamers. I was never upset with that. I was never upset with the idea that people were infringing upon my territory, because that's not how I viewed it. But I was upset with the fact that anybody that I knew was capable of doing that, you never knew if they were cheating or not cheating. So Monster Hunter's visual... So we've transitioned through different iterations of what we classify content for Monster Hunter. So when I was coming up, the Evasionist series, like iframe dodging, rolling,
right,
that was big, and that was like MH-DOS and on. And then I want to say that so it was like headlocking, then it was like essentially evasion. Down the line, we eventually got into dunking. I want to say dunking was like the fourth for you generation.
Yeah,
like it was big, where everybody's making little videos of just like. And to me, it's like anybody can count X amount of number of hits, and then push record.
You say that, but fucking people don't understand it.
Push record. I'm a dunk right now, and it falls. Look how great I am. And then everybody, like, that's just instant clout. That's instant fame. That's instant growth. So people start attributing that individual with more respect as a Monster Hunter player because they pushed record at the right fucking time. Like to me, those,
or they were just recording all the time.
Yeah. So before the dunker, or roughly around the same time of the dunker, became like the information peddler is what I call it, where people were just taking resources here and allocating into a video, and then everybody goes, oh, now like that was like the build era. Like for you and on was like everybody needs to have these builds or they're bad. If you're not good, then it's because you don't follow this person's videos. And it really divided the community up as far as that. And then we entered into, I want to say, like the cinematic era of Monster Hunter with, I want to say, World, where we have Sunny Legend, who's just showing videos of them with like no UI and just getting the perfect evasion, and then the follow up, EI fucking LS attack. And I don't know, like that's. There you go. History lesson for you for Monster Hunter.
All right. So,
sorry, I trailed. I trailed. Yeah. And I think I lost us. I need a beer.
Okay. See,
all right, go for it.
I brought my second beer.
See, I didn't know how long it was going to sit out, and it's like I want it ice cold, and if it's not ice cold, then I don't want it.
Mine's so cold. So, anyway, so I was. Wanted to talk about too, so you kind of went on the keep going back to the community part. But before we go there, one other thing I wanted to talk about as far as emulation and stuff goes. Have you, and what are your opinions on playing the older Monster Hunter games like Freedom Unite, Frontier, 3U, try whatever. But now with the help of mods and stuff, we can make them look as good as like Switch games, like GU and
So
stuff.
so like upscaling and resolution boosts and all that kind of stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, all that stuff. Because have you seen like what some of these games are looking like these days? Like they look pretty good.
So so to me, as a former art major in college, I think they still look like shit, and they look like shit to begin with. But
Oh,
they look like better shit than what they were. Um, there's something about flat rasterized textures that just bothers me.
that's
And to,
understandable.
and the thing is that you have to look at old Monster Hunter as a flat rastered texture series, because it was. And I think that the ones that shine the worst, the most polished of turds, is typically Frontier, because once they got out of what was canon to first, second gen and started breaching into new territory with different patches, different iterations of Frontier, all the gear looks like paper. Like it's just like flat polygons with a flat texture sitting on
And
top of
none
it.
of the monsters
And
match the locales.
and yeah, and even the monsters kind of have like deeper, sharper edges and polygons on them. And for a while, it's like the quality dipped, but like the ideas expanded. Um, so yeah, I mean that's just
I,
what it was. Like I yes, it looks better. I'm not bothered by it. Your question is what do I think of it now? That's the only way to play it.
mhm.
It's I mean, I could bust out my PSP right now and play it if I really wanted to play at home by myself. But if I want to play with friends, if I want to stream it, if I want to do something content related, if I want to share this wisdom and passion and so on, then my only choices are that. And I mean, I've done Hamachi since what Freedom, the first Freedom. I've done Evolve, which is now gone. I've used other programs. X-Link Kai was since Freedom days. That was a connecting force. I mean, like, even though I wouldn't necessarily say those are direct mods, you had to mod something
Yeah,
somewhere.
use tools, third party
Yeah,
tools.
third party tools, PC influence, PC porting, um, things out of the normal convention. So, like, yes, I'm both purist and vanillaist on one aspect, but at the same time, I'm also willing to join the 21st century of hunting and fucking. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not bothered by it. I don't see anything wrong with it, and I don't see why Capcom should really take a stake in an issue with it. So I don't think that they are or they have, but
I don't think they will. I think a lot of people, well, after Capcom brought out this whole video, like condemning people messing with their game engine, which again, totally understandable. But I think a lot of people feel like Capcom's going to go after the modding communities that are propping up some of these older Monster Hunter games, and I don't see that happening, to be
they
honest.
could. I mean, that would be like the Nintendo treatment of things, and I always
Yeah,
and
well,
I
this,
and I and I always thought that, and like in my heart of hearts, I always felt like Capcom, while a rigid and older format of Japanese game development culture, was like, this is what we made, this is what you get, that's it. Don't change it, don't fuck with it, don't have an opinion on
it's
it,
ours, not
play it.
yours.
Right. And I've always done my best to respect that, but at the same time I've also like you can see the other side, not necessarily be over there. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
Like
like
I see the reason in it.
I feel like at least Capcom's a bit more in tune with their audience than Nintendo per se.
This is both true and not true. So I mean, like, there has been moments in Monster Hunter history where Capcom has directly brought down the ban hammer on things, and in ways that people haven't seen.
Yeah,
So
like
so
enlighten me, like what?
so during 4U, there was a streamer that I'm not going to name at the moment that decided that they wanted to, and once again going back to the USJ shit, which last podcast I was talking about World, but this time I'm talking about 4U. So during 4U, there was release of content incrementally, but obviously within a cartridge-based game, a lot of that data is already there. It's just time gated.
Right.
Um, so essentially, people then modded or hacked their way to that content, and then it's also at that time acted as if they themselves had acquired that content the proper way. Capcom released a patch shortly thereafter that did away with that. So basically, they removed the ability to hack into it. So they changed something on the fly, which is definitely more in line or more common now with next gen consoles.
Well, right, because everything's
So
digital. You could throw out a
correct,
patch in a
and
day.
and that's a whole conversation that I'd love to get into as far as like where I think Monster Hunter has gone wrong with updates and where they've gone wrong with
Next
changing core values.
next time we talk about Monster Hunter, we'll talk about like World and Rise and Sunbreak and just fifth gen in general. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we don't get any more like sixth gen announcements, so we don't have anything
right,
to tamper
right.
with that. But
I mean, like, I think Call of is a great discussion topic about changes between World and Post. Same thing with the Defender armor and all that kind of shit, and then how they and essentially Capcom has a history of sort of dashing over the previous iteration of the same game. So like they'll just sort of blanket statement and be like, "Hurry, get to the new shit," and they completely devalue the original content. So it's not even playable as was. It's forced into the now, which is something that you can cakewalk over. So they defeat their whole Capcom is built on ledges and or walls of confrontation, where it's like you hit this wall and you have to break through it. You hit this ledge and you have to jump off. You have to learn new technique, new timing, new weapons, and that exactly. So I mean, but let's save that for next time with our other guests because I think that makes more sense.
Right, fair enough.
But so what was I really? I was getting into something there.
I don't know.
Was I getting into something there?
I don't know where you
for
were.
you.
Yeah,
for you.
We're
So Capcom implemented a change in game that affected everybody based off of one individual modding and hacking, and that situation at large. It's not the first time they've done it. It's not the last time they've done it. There's also been times where there has been leaks directly from community management that has affected how information is then delegated to us, the consumer or audience as well. So I mean, there's history there. Remember, I'm the guy who has the dirt. So
one day we'll have too many beers and you'll spill that dirt.
I know. See, the thing is, I always maintained a pretty straight line, but I've lived on the fringes for sure.
So we did talk a lot about the Monster Hunter community and its content creators and stuff a lot, because a lot of Monster Hunter is built upon its community. That's just that the game was designed that way. In fact,
but it's a multiplayer game and always has been, and only as of recently have we forcefully turned it into an individual rise kind of thing, like where it's like. It's about personalities. Capcom. It's not about multiplayer. I mean, so it's about personalities within the bubble of content creators. It's still outside of that. It is communal based, but like the communities are constantly dumpster fires.
It's pocket communities that hate each other is what we're at, basically.
Well, I mean, you got Facebook with its petitions and the lack of sanity. You've got GameFAQs and all the old forums that are graveyards for the has-beens that were never good enough to be anybody anyways. Fuck you guys. I know who you are. I still see it. Eat my ass. I don't care. Come for me. I will fight you. And then we have Twitch, which is just like which is it at one point. I think there was a good thing going, but it quickly devised into teams, then those teams fragmented into a worse shitstorm.
Base World was I still will 100% like say was the best time for streaming and communities and stuff for Monster Hunter, because everything was so fresh and new, and no one had any idea what was really like. What was the big plan? Okay.
Do you start streaming with World?
Yeah, I mean, I did other Monster Hunter content prior to World, but I didn't have a capture card or anything to do anything with, so I was like writing guides with like Laxaria for GU and for you and stuff, and doing some like Discord and Reddit stuff. But
my mindset is that wherever you enter at Monster Hunter community and like a Twitch, YouTube, streaming service related, that's always going to be like the pinnacle, because you're still naive enough to be willing to try, and also still open enough to not have built up walls or resentment, or you know what I mean? Like, you haven't been fucked by people or the system yet. So you're still you're still capable of believing, and like, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things where there's so many people that, and I hate to shit on your fucking dreams, but part of me feels good about it, is that affiliate means this. It is nothing. Affiliate is nothing. And I say affiliate is nothing because it is. One, you only need 3 people. You could turn on 2
Oh, you're talking
computers and ask.
specifically about
Yeah,
Twitch. Okay.
yeah, and you can ask your mom to watch, part of your thing, and you can become an affiliate. You could fake your way to affiliate. Speaking of faking your way, there's so many fucking Monster Hunter people that have like view botted and
Oh,
got
for sure.
themselves partnered like falsely that I'm just fucking tired of. That's more dirt. Um, affiliate doesn't mean shit, and subsequently partner doesn't mean shit either, unless you're a high-end level partner. You know, so it's still something that's hard to achieve. It's not something that was ever really that easy. I'm not saying that there's not accolades there to some degree.
No, but I know where you're going with this.
But
It's
what
just
I'm
that
what I'm
people
trying to
are put on a pedestal.
right. So it's like, oh my God, you're a partner. It's like, do you know how many failed Monster Hunter partners there are? Because there's more failed Monster Hunter partners than there is successful Monster Hunter partners. And when I say failed, I mean like they've got less than 10 viewers concurrently all the time, every time, no matter what. And some people will be like, well, they still have viewers. And it's like, okay, but you need to have concurrently 100+ viewers for like several months for Capcom to look at you and go, hey, you're a partner, and then you get your check mark or your purple listing and so on, and can make teams and all that other stuff. But the thing is that people think the second you hit partner, companies are going to want to be a part of you, that other people are going to come to you, that everybody's going to look up to you. It's unfortunate, and I think that's both an iteration of generational thing, but
yeah,
there's a lot to unpackage there. And for people that aren't socially malleable to begin with, that are already kind of awkward, and I'm not going like saying like you're fucking incels, and you have to hustle for sure. There are elements there that are worth giving respect to, but unfortunately there's a mindset that comes with it that a lot of these people are seeking that is the wrong mindset, and that's my opinion. They made it farther than I did. I could have been a partner too, but I was too stupid to take advantage of what I had in front of me. I didn't know that I had to submit, and then I didn't know that I had to ask, and I didn't know that I had to do all these other things. I've interacted with Capcom on a professional level without being a partner. I've interacted with Capcom without asking for shit. I've been able to do things with companies without sucking X amount of people off, and I did it the fucking hard way. And ultimately, I failed myself by not hustling once I got to a certain point, but I never had the mindset to begin with. That
wasn't like your grand
it was never,
plan.
Yeah, it was. I was like, I'm gonna become famous, and then people are gonna think I'm a great monster hunter. That wasn't. That was never the goal.
If anyone has the thought, I'm gonna be a great monster hunter, just fucking cut it there. Just stop. Like, just don't. Just don't. Don't even.
Well, we've entered this era. Like, I want to say, world is the era of wrestler personalities.
It is very much like that.
It's just like, come on, guys, come on, stop.
No, but I genuinely did like my time engaging with a lot of the communities when World came out. I think everyone was just really excited for new Monster Hunter because World was such a huge leap over 4th gen Monster Hunter that it was almost like a dream. We're all in that weird state of like, is this real? Like, is this really fucking Monster Hunter?
Well, I wasn't able to enjoy that at the time, and it was a combination of the fallout of what was taking place from the communities of 3U and 4U in Twitch, but also just like without trauma dumping, the person I consider my mother died in 2018, at the beginning of 2018. That's coming off. That's coming off the betas of Monster Hunter World, and like I did like 6 streams and then recast those and got like 60K fucking concurrent views on my restreams, and I had great numbers. But the thing is that I was emotionally in the worst place that it could have been. Right. So like I had the opportunity to take advantage of that again. Another moment in my own Monster Hunter career where I could have profited off of it, not financially, but like I could have gotten socially. I could have gotten the clout. I could have gotten the clout that would have established my name going forward. But instead, I prioritized my personal life and walked away from all of it. And when I came back, it was like, oh, here's a bunch of people that I don't know, supported by people that I do know that are shit. So it's not a welcoming environment. Like that's another thing too, is that for the longest time, like I can't tweet these things because Twitter is such a shithole for Monster Hunter opinions and hot takes and everything else. But
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
but it's like I don't. Let me think on that.
Okay. Well, let's say, what are your plans? Are you excited for Monster Hunter 6? Are you gonna like come back and start streaming in and making a name for yourself, or just get your face out there when Monster Hunter 6 shows up?
I still stream now. I just don't care about it.
But you're not streaming Monster Hunter, right?
No.
Well, yeah, so, but Monster Hunter.
So it doesn't care. It's not Monster Hunter, so why care?
Well, I mean, I only care about 2 games. Well, soon 3, but 2 games. It's Monster Hunter and Remnant. And that is it. For the past 5 years of my life, that has been, well, and for a binge of like 6 months, Wild Hearts was my jam because it wasn't Monster Hunter. But that's about it. That's been my entire identity for a long time, since like 2018. Because Remnant came out in 2019, and I was hard writing that until about 2021. And then been working on Remnant 2 with the dev team and stuff since then. And that's finally out, and I'm hard into that. So it's just, those are the only games that I like.
So correct me here. Dev team or mod team or both?
Well, both. So I've been working with the mod team for Remnant, doing the From Hell mod, adding and stuff. All I do is itemization balance, testing. I do some promotional stuff because I make videos and whatnot. Like, that's about it. But then I was also working with Gunfire Games during the Remnant 1 Subject 2923 DLC, which was like their second DLC for that game. And I was doing beta testing for that. We're doing an item rebalance and changed all the items around. We're doing testing and making sure everything was, fun and enjoyable, and changing all the stuff around and helping them with that. And then the same thing for Remnant 2 is every couple months for the past 2 years, we're getting a new test build, and we're, basically QA team. We're trying to find bugs. We're trying to find, making sure all the items work and all the events work, and then stat feedback on items and like suggestions for items and how things should work and skills and all that stuff. And just every part of the process, we're like a little small QA team, which has been really, really fun. And that's been one of the highlights of, being like a content creator. Because also, I didn't spill the beans.
Okay.
But yeah, but those are the games. And that's the thing. It's like, I really wish I had that opportunity with Monster Hunter. Will never fucking happen. Just different companies, different ideologies. Like, they're over there, I'm over here.
I think you could still find support if you could build yourself. So here's the thing is that going back to the whole, like, there's more failed Monster Hunter partners than there is successful ones. There's more hacked, cheat, pirate, stolen, thefted, etc. Monster Hunter partners than there is not. So like, there's plenty of people up there that are a much darker sheen tint of shit than you, sir. I'm just saying, like, you're not nearly as like chaotic evil as you might think yourself to be. So like, that's me feeding you the medicine you feed me. It's like, people don't hate you as much as you think, and it's like exactly. but you don't know which people hate me.
True, I guess.
And those people have more influence than others. Whereas so
let's talk about what, like, not who hates us, but who do we hate? Because that's always a big fun one. Because we were talking about the Monster community, and we wanted to just go over what we dislike about it. Because obviously we're all here being doom and gloom, being like, "Oh, the community sucks and it's garbage."
Let me give you an example of a communal experience. Because like I was saying, this series has never been welcoming to me, and that's,
I don't think it's been welcoming to anyone ever.
Not true. There's plenty of people that have coasted on the coattails of others.
I get. All right. That's actually, I know exactly who you're talking about. Never mind. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
There's plenty of people that have. There's more than two. But there's a whole team of them. Yeah. and then there was a team before that team, and a lot of those people coasted on each other.
Yeah.
I think you've made mention of what is it, Rage? Yeah, that was a whole team
Dude,
coasting
is
on
that a
another.
team?
It was. I
Oh.
don't know if it still is.
Oh, yeah, those are fucking. I'll just fucking say it. Those are zero IQ clickbait BS that I'm so glad that every time. That's like the one thing I like about the Twitter community, at least right now, is everyone collectively agrees that rage gaming videos are shit and everyone hates them.
Right.
And I'm so happy for that. That's like the one saving grace I have.
I don't really want to draw heat to anybody, but here's a respectable source. If you want to know what dirt I have, then ask Kogath, because he's the one who's told me about the dirt that people think they have on me and the things that they've gone out to do. So just saying, like,
Okay.
yeah, he's my Snowden.
He's your Oh wow! All right,
Come here, Kogath. I'll support you.
that's a big name
You can
drop there.
you can stay on my couch.
That'd be a wild podcast to do.
I asked him if he wanted to do podcasts, and he said he doesn't like listening to them. I don't know what the fuck he does all day.
Honestly, I mean, I didn't start getting into podcasting until I got bored at work and I needed to burn hours.
Yeah.
Or like if you're driving to work, like you have like an hour plus commute, I see people getting into it.
So you're saying that you don't think Monster has ever been welcoming to you, but at the same time,
well, not to me. Just the game in general. Like
you came into World and you've made friends with like Wiggler and Faye and all these other, Astra and all these other names. Like I feel like those are all of your time. Those are all people of your time, people that you don't have issue with, that you presume that don't have issue with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But the point that I'm making here is that like you came into a series fresh, that was the new launch, and you made friends, and you didn't have an issue. I'm saying that Monster has never been welcoming to me, as in I've had to forcibly make those friendships and connections.
Well, nobody likes to force be friends.
They never right. Well, that's probably why the team failed. Besides the fact of just that maybe I was a bad judge of character and picked a bunch of shitty people to begin with.
Shitty people are fun. I mean, I don't know.
It's a lot of work.
That's a part of the community I also want to talk about, because I was also really good friends, still am, at least in my opinion. I haven't talked to them in a while, with TSC and Deva, who are very notorious Monster Hunter community members. At least they were during Base World times and such, because they are very outspoken. And I don't know, I just because I always associated with them as like a lot of people.
We attract like-mindedness, I think, to some degree. Like I think in life you seek out people that are of your camp, that you can relate to, that share some level of
camaraderie is what we're looking for.
Oh, yeah, not to be all like virtuous over here with
really
ideas.
Brother Virtue over here, not trying to be virtuous.
Just Virtue or V. That's what people call me. That's fine. I'm good. Doesn't need to be Brother Virtue. I feel like that stuck. It was always like, brother, how you doing, brother? Like, going back to that wrestling era of fucking idiocy. But no, it's like Monster Hunter was never welcoming. Like in the beginning, it was tough fought, hard earned. If you wanted respect, you had to somehow be better, or you had to have talk a better shit game, or you had to be more knowledgeable than other people. That's another thing too, is that I feel like even we talk about the social impact and visibility of Monster Hunter, where it's like changing from evasionist to information to dunking to cinematics and all this other things, like how we equate respect in Monster Hunter of like, oh, you must be knowledgeable about Monster Hunter, so I'm going to get in your camp and worship you, which leads to a whole shitstorm of issues for the people that are actually passionate about it, that are actually doing the legwork, and they often go unseen, unheard, and then get trampled somewhere in transition and more or less forgotten. So like the legends of old are gone and people don't care about them. And while realistically you could be like, it's just a game, and I've heard that more in my life than I think than not, it's frustrating.
Your brain just stopped.
Yeah, going somewhere with it. Long-winded tangent. No. So visibility with like, is it the social aspect of it? Is that what I was thinking about? I'm not sure. I think that's where I wanted to go, but I'm just not sure if that's what it was. Um, Fuck. I don't know. You pick up the slack here, man. Pick up the
You
slack.
need another drink. So
Pick up the slack.
I don't know where you were going with the whole social visibility thing. Like, I get it. I get that, the people who maybe didn't do the legwork to provide, the good information, got noticed. And a lot of people, I think it's a lot of people obviously what get out of like Monster Hunter communities is a lot of people do put in a lot of work. And I'm not just saying people who like data mine or find information or make guides or stuff like that, but a lot of people try really hard to put out good information or try to help people and be
a lot of people try to fit into this community in the way that I think that the game was designed for as a multiplayer thing.
and the community
but
does
those
not.
people get burned out like
Yeah.
like a wildfire. It's just not welcome. You're here to help other people, not welcome. But if you're here for yourself, I can get on board with that. It's just it's frustrating. It's ass backwards here. It always has been.
Yeah, it is. And that's actually one of the things I really want for Monster Hunter 6. And I know it's really hard to get proper, how's where I want to phrase this, like a cohesive single community. Because like right now, especially, well, ever since like 4th gen, communities, especially with the advent of like Discord and Twitch and Twitter and stuff, have been very segmented. And even though Monster Hunter is an online game, everyone's only ever playing with their small group of community members. That's basically it.
Okay, so in a streaming bubble, that's always going to be the same. So we can't change that, nor should we think that we could. But in the game audience at large, there needs to be a better infrastructure for sure, without doubt,
Yeah,
for Monster Hunter. So like Monster Hunter hasn't had a good in-game community since like Try, and that's it. So like Locklack was like the last basically. So like you could go into people's houses and there's these awards and it's like, oh, you could do that in World and you pay extra money and be super lavish about this shit. But the thing is that 4 people to a town isn't enough, and it never was.
It's not. And then just the advent of like, there's no communication as far as like nobody's gonna join these random like hubs and stuff, especially because everyone just puts passwords on them, and there's no people. I don't know. It's so weird. You can't just go out and.
So is that a staple of like a broken generational thing where it's like chat rooms aren't really a thing anymore, and definitely voice chat? It's
and
like
they aren't, because everyone does everything third party now.
Right. Well, we've grown out of voice chat as well, because like you play other online games and it's just a shit show and you don't know what you're gonna get in those. So like people often avoid that, and you already have your insular introverts and all this stuff like that, where a large vast swath of Monster Hunter's community of players are in fact isolated by themselves and or have small friend groups that are the only reason why they probably play the game. And I think they make up a larger number than obviously the minority of a few shoutcasters that take an opinion, a stance, and then on top of that, coupled with like a build video, ascend to godhood because they're loud and obnoxious. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. Okay. But that's what I want. Is I want the return of almost like forced integration, like Lock Lackey. Because like at this point, I know people kind of bitch, but every game basically requires internet access these days. Like even single player games. But like what?
Right. Well, I mean, everything's live service, and and that's part of the shittiness of it. But I mean, even if they gave us. So look at World. Sorry to interrupt you. Look at World base, and then look at Iceborne, and it's like, what if I saw 12 extra players in Celiana? What if I saw 16 extra players in the main hub? Like if they were walking around actual players, I'd be inclined. Like I'd go hunt with other fucking people. Like,
exactly.
There's more lonely ass fucking hunters out there than there is established teams of players of hunters out there. Mind you, that's in a shift for sure. But by no means is it measurable as a larger percentage than, say, 20 at most.
Right. So, yeah, I was trying to get at that, is that Monster Hunter, especially World, did such a bad job at integrating multiplayer, especially because just the way the quests work and stuff was just awful. But, like, what if Monster Hunter 6 had, like, okay, we have a town, but not, like, a hub like every other Monster Hunter game has had? What if we had
Mhm.
like straight up a big ass fucking town, and that
So
if you're as long as you're connected online, you automatically default loading into this town. You don't have to like go to like a guild marm and like go to like an online lobby and then try to search like a 4-player lobby. None of that stuff. Like everybody in town is there, and all the quest
Frontier did
boards.
it, and
Yes,
MHO did it, where you're in a town with so MHO is more akin to like, I don't want to say Dauntless, but it's like I found this city and there's all these players in this city. So it was very MMO-esque where, all levels 1 through 12 are all in the city, but once you like get far enough out, you're fighting harder shit. So you go into the next city, so because you have to progress over there. And that would almost kind of be like a Monster Hunter 4 adventure reimagined, where it's just like you're traveling from city to city. But the difference there is that like in city 1, 2, and 3, you have lower level players, you have people that are doing stuff, and then maybe there's like some incentive to return as a late game player to do extended quests or to do harder content, and that way you get a kind of ebb and flow of a player base, so that you could have organic interaction with like this person needs help. There's an incentive for a aged player to assist. So you would essentially weave integration of purpose into interaction, as opposed to a very isolated, here's a 4-man team, do your 4-man team mission. Or rather, from the streamer perspective, I'm only good if I can solo this shit. And I'm only good if I can solo this shit fast. So I'm just going to sit here and focus on that, and everybody's going to gather around me and idolize me for how fast I can solo something, as opposed to probably enjoy the game at the level that it was intended to be enjoyed at, despite knowing full well that there would be that outcrop of that kind of player. But the thing is I think that we've gotten too far down the chamber, where that's the only kind of player that we care about, and those players are driving the main information and communication within the fan base, and that's a bad. Once again, Capcom's backed the wrong fucking horse, because they're focused on the players that I guess bring the least amount to the table.
that's true.
And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's not that they don't have an enriched opinion. It's not that they don't have a valid opinion. But I mean, if you were to like lump us all together, it's one of those things where they talk about like the planet at a distance, and like if you were to take Earth and rub your hand over it and you were giant, like it's super smooth and all this shit. It's like our opinions are so cohesive to one another that we're not really branching out that far from indifference. And the problem with that is that if that's all we're bringing back to the dev or the company, and being like, oh, we're all interested in this, and then we get it, and then all those people then shit on it because there's not more somewhere else. It's because we didn't have enough varying opinions and voices to give presence to reason why for that. So the problem, I'm very much an anti-streamer at this point.
Yeah, it
So,
sounds like it.
like, I don't know.
So
Just token wisdom, I guess.
So where I was going with that was like I would love if the next Monster Hunter game had a forced integration town, and not even like we were saying like what online did and 4U does, like no extra towns, one town. And you could even, if they want to be crazy with it, scale players back to lower level quests if you want to help people, so you're not just fucking steamrolling stuff. It's really easy to scale back. Oh hey, look, I'm HR 8 with HR 8 gear, but I'm going on an HR 2 quest, and just scale your raw and shit back and your defense to what it would be around there.
So there's like different games, and unfortunately anytime that you get into like a different game discussion, people are like, well, that's not Monster Hunter, or that's not this, or that's not what it is.
Dude, that's the dumbest thing ever. Monster Hunter needs to change. I want everything to change about it.
I agree, where it's just like those are two fucking different games with two different intents and purposes and so on. But at the same time, like you could play Diablo 4 with somebody, like I could be level 80 and you could be level 2, and the thing is that the monsters that I'm killing next to you are just as difficult for me as they are difficult for you, because there's a scaling involved. And if you're saying implement that kind of scaling in Monster Hunter, one, I think that's agreeable, but two, I also don't, because there is a certain experience where a more veteran player, more experienced player, and when I say veteran, I mean like their level HR MR8 and your HR2, and they come into your quest, so obviously they should be able to destroy shit faster than you can. Obviously they should be able to do those things, and I think I don't know how to bridge the gap there in power. Because if you try to make it equal, then what was the point of this chase? If every
Well,
time I try to do lower content, I'm
no, it's
forced
not.
into,
It's
you know,
not all
I'm
lower content. It's if you're joining someone else's
okay.
game, so you can still go back and like, if you're the host and you're hosting
Okay.
like a 2-star quest, yeah, you'll fucking destroy them. And if someone
Well,
who's 2-star joins you, the
I appreciate
two
you
star is going
explaining
to
that
be
more.
equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just if you're going to help someone else who's lower level, it's going to bring you to their level. So it's not so you just go and, carry people through the game and stuff. So like, yeah, if you wanted to farm or do other stuff, whatever. But what I was getting at this is that I want like a hub where there's like fucking, I don't know how many people you can fit in this city. I want a big ass city that can fit like 100 people.
I want a Final Fantasy 14 situation where housing is finite and
Yeah, like
only godly players can, only pre-beta streamers can have the houses.
that's
And
right. But
so
like,
we have a new thing to be upset about.
but here's the thing. I want Lock Black. I like Monster Hunter, like the vision of like the trailers and stuff that they always used to play in the old games. I want players to have like, okay, we have the guilds with the quest boards and like all the people's quests are there. So you can walk up and take quests for low players, and if you want to help them and get extra rewards or something. And then like all the marketplace is just people selling their fucking loot, and you can fucking trade loot. Who cares if you can like sell fucking high rank Rathalos pieces to someone else? Just don't let them unlock the armor crafting until they kill the monster themselves. That's all you got to do.
All right. Well, you're taking some liberties in concepting there that obviously Capcom will never endorse.
I know, I 100%. But the idea, no, what I'm trying to get at though is I want a big
build a Monster
effort.
Hunter.
Yeah. I want a big community experience where people
That hasn't
are
been
in the
done on a
town
Monster Hunter podcast before.
everything has to be done like as a group thing because Monster Hunter has been so isolated for so long.
Well, so I mean, like, there's a history of progression here that I think that enforced this ideology for sure. So it's like you have Monster Hunter 1 on PS2, and I hate calling it that, but I'll fucking say it. So chew me out later. So the first Monster Hunter had an online experience, and that community thrived and was unique and tightly knit, and obviously there were highs and lows socially. And then we instantly went into a PSP, a handheld generation, where all of that infrastructure was done away with. So unless you were of the few, the proud, the modders, the modders, so unless you excellent Kai'd your way into a better situation, or Hamachi, which was still not really all that functional then for PSPs, you were separated. And if you didn't import, then you weren't a part of the Japanese online community. So like I imported, I modded. So for me, I have a long history of a social interaction in a Monster Hunter space, where for probably 90% of Monster Hunter, that is not the case. So it's like we went from having online to nothing. So it was togetherness and then the individual experience. So is that, I feel like that's where the whole part of the individualism stemmed from. Is just like people became so proud about their achievements and Unite in Freedom 2, and that still echoes today, where players are like,
Freedom Unite? No.
Yeah, they're like, people are like, oh my god, I remember Pokey Village and I got to HR blah blah blah, and they talk about it with pride, and obviously then people then shit on them for being that veteran status, that quintessential veteran that doesn't shut up, the one that thinks that they still deserve some modicum of respect and haven't earned it, despite the fact that they may have actually earned it. But the thing is it doesn't matter, because it was within a much smaller bubble than the social bubble. And then we get into Try, which then is a revitalization of community in game, because it has a hub that supports a larger player base. It has chat rooms that support a large player base. It has a device that implements the beginnings of voice chat, which was horrible. That Wii webcam chat mode. I don't know if you ever had it. Came with the Animal Crossing Wii.
Yeah.
Anyways, and that was garbage quality, and it constantly dropped off. And it's like I don't know. It was a fickle bitch. But there was community in Try, and by the time that we got to 3U, there was social media. Like maybe mid to late 3U. So I mean, not like at launch, but a little bit after. That was the Justin TV Twitch days for sure. That was the beginnings of YouTube's videos for it. and not that YouTube videos didn't exist before that for
No, but the
Monster Hunter.
popularity was getting up there
That's what,
finally.
yeah, like that was like the emergence of Gaijin and others, where people started giving credence to builds, or information peddling, or essentially taking information from a country that had a game a whole year in advance, and
Right.
then reslinging that information as if it were their own. And that was always an argument that I made back then. It's just like, you're not special for repeating what somebody else has already said or done. Who knows who deserves credit? And
Well, you kind of already ousted them already, so.
a little bit. But so Monster Hunter has evolved over time communally. And by the time that we got to 4U, it was all about like how stylish and flashy and important I am with what I'm doing that's different than what that other person's doing, as opposed to a teamwork collaborative thing.
True.
So I mean, we're down the tunnel. We might as well just keep going and see what we find. But it would be nice if Capcom did bring back. I don't want to be forced into it, but I definitely want a more dominant importance placed upon working together. Like, I'm not saying make the monsters so hard that you can't solo them, because I think there's joy and enjoyment in that.
It's like the key quests that can afford you and stuff, doing like Dalamador and Daran, and people were always asking for help and doing GOG and stuff. And it's like, it's not impossible to solo, but for the more people, you really couldn't. And it was a gate you had to fucking cross. And so I think that drove a lot of people.
World also fucked us where we couldn't do these quests together with other people. There was strange
co-op
so like
sucked.
So like there has to be a good co-op experience, one, and then there also has to be a good communal space, I think, for a community to flourish and achieve unity, as opposed to there only being these outlets that don't necessarily represent the entirety of Monster Hunter.
True. You know, I sound really fucking entitled, but you know what would be super cool to me? Is if Monster Hunter 6 came out and we got a new sling of like US community members. I don't want to put my name in the hat, but let's say, because we have like one right now. I think it's just Jono is the only person in the US that you can talk to.
Yeah.
But what if we had like 10? Let's say 10 people. And like how Jono does, like on Wednesdays, is
Yuri had a team of people. Yuri had like 4 or 5 people that were working with him at all times.
Right.
I don't see who's working with Jono, and it's not that it's important for me to see who's working with Jono. But the thing is that at one point there was a person that was like for the visible factor. There was a person that like kept up on information. Like when I got invited to do stuff with Capcom, it was made very apparent that there were multiple people that were involved and had been watching and keeping eyes out for a long time, and basically that they themselves were immersed in the community but hidden. And it was just like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that you guys actually gave a shit, because I've gone like eight years without hearing anything, and then out of nowhere suddenly it's like, but then it happened.
Well, so now, obviously back then I feel like it's a little easier because there's only so many spaces that people would flock to, but now with the privatized of Discords and stuff, like it's really hard to keep track of the community at large. But so right now I think it's just Jono, to be honest. Maybe there's a couple people that are behind the scenes with him. But what I was trying to say was like, what if we had like 10 people that would basically do what Jono does on Wednesday and does like a Capcom stream, but it's like essentially for like launch in the first couple months of Monster Hunter is more of like a, hey, we're going to do, these people are going to be doing community hunts and doing, helping people get through like key quests or whatever the fucking system they have. And then just doing like this whole like, okay, we have a group of streamers that are available at all sorts of different like time zones and days and stuff that, if you guys want to talk, answer questions regarding like game mechanics and stuff, they can all be, very well versed and educated on how the game works, and just be there to be a face for the community to help people, learn and get better and explain how, certain mechanics work. Like people don't understand how fucking staggers work still, and whatever the new game has.
Yeah, I see that. I see value in that, but at the same time, I don't know.
It's not realistic. Obviously, it's not going to happen. But I just like
the thing is they've done stuff for the new player base, but us older player base are just like, you know what I mean? Like, cool. They showed me a video. Like, I want to play it. I want to formulate my own opinion. I want to do my own thing. Hi,
But even
love you.
even older players still like for farming. Monster Hunter is such a big farming game. Like unless you're in like a Discord community or like a Twitch streamers community, you can't really get that anymore because it's not just these random lobbies. Everything's locked, passworded, and people are only playing with people that they know. So
I
like
mean,
if we just
I was
had
guilty of the same shit when I was streaming. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I might have been open to exploring and finding new team members, and was obviously interested in like kind of scouting out new talent in the community and giving them a voice for a time being, or like, hey, and I'm gonna invite you on and let's co-stream together and see how we jive, kind of thing. But even then, that wasn't enough then, and I was aware of that, and it's definitely not enough now. Um, so I mean, like we can't restructure the system. It is like we're stuck with what we got,
no, I know, but I mean, I'm
and
not even talking
what we
about
got
bringing up.
sucks. But yeah,
I'm not even talking about bringing up like other streamers or content creators. I just want like
well,
I
you're
don't know. I've
talking
been
about
saying this a lot. I want,
involving a player base,
yeah, I just want a bigger community brought back together for Monster Hunter 6. That's my biggest thing. It's like I want
right?
a
So
big hub for everyone. I want the devs to be involved. Not necessarily the devs, but like the community managers. I want everyone to just be fucking thrown together again.
right. How are we doing on time?
We're pretty late to be honest, but
Okay.
yeah,
Do we need to wrap it up?
probably.
Okay.
But that's
Do
what
we
I
have
want from Monster Hunter 6.
Is there anything else that we can get into? I feel like we didn't quite get where we were going trying to get.
Not quite. Not
Yeah.
quite. No, I mean
We wanted to pull out
some,
daggers.
there was some subtle shade, but not yeah,
Not nearly enough.
not a whole lot, but yeah.
We'll get there one day.
Yeah, I guess.
One day we'll really get canceled.
When I bring Aster on, I mean that's gonna be the end of it.
You think so?
Have you listened to like the podcast with Aster?
I will do that as homework.
Yes. You don't know what you're getting into.
Is he like a next level hater or what?
Aster is too smart for his own good. Yeah.
And I know too much that I shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see that, come together.
Yeah.
So, next time.
Okay.
Next time. So okay, let's wrap it up here for now.
Okay, so next podcast, our focus is modding again, but in better depth.
Right, because we're gonna bring on hopefully Aster and someone who is very well acquainted with Capcom, Monster Hunter modding, and honestly the community at large, even from behind the shadows.
Everybody streams with ice mods these days, so it's listed everywhere.
And that's Aster's baby. But yeah, so we want to discuss this whole situation with him as well. And because you have a long-standing history with Capcom and the Monster Hunter community and have a lot of dirt, I feel like you two would be able to.
So I guess to put into context without just saying like a hypothetical or a vague, so my involvement with Monster Hunter is that like I forecasted Monster Hunter, and the thing is that I don't think that there's enough Monster Hunter forecasters out there. And by this I mean you can look at this two ways. You can look at this like you wasted your time, or you could look at it as in you genuinely care. And I think that I would like to fall into the latter. But if you are up to date on what's going on in the community, if you're up to date on who's who, if you're up to date on what people are saying, if you're up to date on news articles, if you're up to date on the transition, and if you're able to logically piece it together, like have some sort of mixture of background that enables you to predict, understand, and to articulate, then I think that there is a presence there. And I think earlier I was kind of talking about like the evolution of both the communal space, of evolution of visibility, the evolution of importance that we attribute. And I just think that there's plenty of people that are passionate about the series, but they're also very much focused on their own individual take.
Yeah.
So the thing is that the passion is, by my opinion, is defeated and or overlooked by the individual take. Whereas I think for me, it was always just wanting to understand where we're at to gauge, and then I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not a significant enough role to really relegate, but it's like if there's someone who's able to piece together where we are, where we've been, and where we're going, then I feel like that was always my intent and purpose because that's how I cared about it. I don't know. ADH
Right.
brain.
Yeah. I care about the guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You're
anyways,
the lore documentarian. I'm just a gunner.
So,
So,
anyways, I don't know why.
next time though. Next time. Yeah, sorry, we rant way too much and get off topic, so we have to space these out when we can.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, do we need to we get like a time clock and just have like a topic that's forcibly in 30 seconds
ones
and
with
then
like
stop.
tap, like you get 30 seconds, then you get 30 seconds. And we tap.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see if we can set something like that up, just like a stop and go clock. So, all right, brother. Well, thanks for chatting with me. I appreciate it. Thanks for hosting this time. And then, yeah, we'll see you on the next one.